In the vast, cold expanse of space, where stars flicker like distant candles against the oppressive darkness, Captain Alara Vance stood on the bridge of the Justice, her gaze fixed on the holographic displays that danced before her eyes. The weight of the galaxy's fate seemed to press against her shoulders, as reports of skirmishes on the fringes of human territory whispered promises of an impending storm. A decorated leader at just 34, she commanded the mightiest human warship ever built, yet with each report of unrest, she felt as though she were commanding a vessel of hope as fragile as glass, in a cosmos that played by no rules but its own. The Titanus Prime space station orbited the lush, vibrant planet of Helion IV, a jewel in humanity's expansive crown in the Andromeda galaxy. Here, amidst the ballet of docking ships and pulsing space traffic control lights, lay the crossroads of countless civilizations. As a young girl, Alara had stared up at the stars from the blue hills of Earth, dreaming of the worlds beyond. Now those worlds looked back, reliant on her decisions, her strength. Her crew moved around the bridge with a quiet efficiency that spoke of months spent in the close quarters of space, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of their stations. Alara's trust in them was complete, yet a shadow lingered in her heart, a fear not of the dark void outside, but of the power she wielded. The Justice was more than a ship. It was a symbol of human ingenuity and might, capable of decimating planets and ending or saving millions of lives with the fire of its guns. She turned away from the viewport, her reflection a ghost against the stars. Could peace be commanded through power, or was she merely holding back an inevitable tide of chaos? As the ship hummed beneath her, the silence of space outside belied the turmoil within her soul, a turmoil mirrored in the restless energy of her crew. They looked to her for guidance, for strategy, for the wisdom to navigate the delicate intricacies of interstellar diplomacy and the brutality of cosmic warfare. In the vastness of space, aboard a ship too powerful to be just, Captain Alara Vance found herself not only commanding a warship, but steering the very course of humanity's destiny. As the darkened hull of the Kravik warship sliced through the void like a silent predator, General Zorak Thul stood rigidly at the command center, his gaze fixed on the vast holographic star map that floated before him. The stars, represented as glowing nodes interconnected with the threads of potential conquests, seemed to pulse with opportunity. His ship, a formidable fortress of steel and menace, was a sharp contrast to the sleek lines of human engineering seen in vessels like the Justice. Zorak, a towering figure with skin as rough as the meteor-scarred surfaces of the moons of Zarnex, had a presence that commanded attention. His eyes, a piercing shade of silver, reflected a mind that churned with schemes as intricate and vast as the galaxy itself. Age had bowed his body slightly, but not his ambition. At 52 he was driven by a vision of a galaxy under Kravik dominion, united under the flag of strength and obedience. His philosophy was simple. Peace was an illusion maintained by the powerful to control the weak, and he considered it his duty to expose this deception. The general's quarters were a stark place, functional, filled with artifacts of war and conquest, weapons from fallen enemies, flags of subjugated planets, and most prominently, a large tactical display of the Andromeda galaxy. It was here that Zorak planned his next move against the fragile human-led alliance that stood as the last barrier to his expansion. His reverie was broken by the entrance of his second-in-command, Commander Tyrak, whose respect for Zorak was edged with a palpable fear. "General, the emissaries from the Triton cluster are waiting in the conference room," Tyrak reported, his voice a low rumble. Zorak nodded curtly, his mind already weaving through the possibilities this meeting presented. As he strode through the narrow, dimly lit corridors of his ship, the sound of his heavy boots echoed off the cold metal, a stark reminder of the loneliness that power often entailed. In the conference room, emissaries from a dozen systems awaited, their appearances as diverse as the sectors they came from. Zorak surveyed them with a critical eye, noting the subtle tensions, the alliances and enmities that divided them. He began the meeting with a speech about unity and strength, but quickly turned the conversation toward the failures of the human peace efforts. "See the humans for what they are," Zorak's voice boomed, filling the room with its commanding tone. "Their worship, the justice, is nothing but a blade held at our throats, disguised as an olive branch. It is time we cut the hand that dares to wield it." As the meeting progressed, Zorak laid out his plan, a masterstroke that would see the Kravik forces secretly undermining the peace talks scheduled to be held on Titanus Prime. By inciting conflict and sowing chaos, he planned to expose the vulnerability of the human alliance, paving the way for a grander, more forceful negotiation where the Kravik Empire would dictate terms. The emissaries, swayed by Zorak's charismatic leadership and the promise of shared power, agreed to a pact. They would return to their territories and begin the delicate work of sabotage, all the while feigning support for the peace process. After they had left, Zorak returned to his quarters, where he stood before the window, staring out into the endless night speckled with stars. Each one burned like a distant fire, a beacon in the dark, representing a world, a battle, a victory yet to be claimed. In the silence of his room, a cold smile spread across his face. The game was set, the pieces were moving, and he was the hand that guided them all. In the vast chessboard of interstellar politics, Zorak Thul was poised to declare checkmate. In the sprawling diplomatic quarter of the Titanus Prime space station, Captain Alara Vance navigated a labyrinth of polished corridors that gleamed under the soft artificial lights. Each step she took was measured, her mind as active as the bustling hub around her, processing the endless stream of data and diplomatic reports that buzzed through her communicator. Here, amid the constant hum of alien dialects and the soft chime of opening and closing airlocks, alliances were forged and broken with the subtlety of a chess game. Alara's uniform, crisp and adorned with the insignias of her rank and achievements, commanded respect and curiosity in equal measure from the diverse beings she passed. Her presence brought a hush to conversations, a testament to her growing reputation as a peacekeeper among the stars. Yet, despite the deference, Alara felt an undercurrent of tension, a thread of unease that wove through the station like a silent alarm. Her first meeting of the day was with Ambassador Lorene, a Tetherian whose species was known for their empathic abilities, and who served as an intermediary between human interests and the broader Galactic Council. The ambassador's office was a serene space, the walls alive with the soft pulsing of bioluminescent plants native to her watery world. "Captain Vance," Lorene greeted, her voice a melodious echo that filled the room. Her form shimmered with a gentle blue light, her eyes deep pools of serene knowledge. "The winds of conflict stir yet again, and your ship stands at the heart of the gathering storm." Alara nodded, her expression composed. "Ambassador, I need to understand the currents beneath the surface. If there's a storm coming, I need to know where it's brewing." Lorene's gaze held a depth of sadness, a burden of knowing too much. "There are whispers, Captain, whispers of movements in the shadows, of alliances fraying at the edges. The Kravik Empire stirs discontent, seeking to exploit any weakness." The discussion turned to specifics, trade agreements that might be leveraged for political gain, minor skirmishes that could flare into significant battles, and diplomatic gatherings that could serve as fronts for more sinister dealings. Each piece of information was a thread in the complex tapestry of galactic politics that Alara was desperate to understand. As the meeting concluded, Alara felt the weight of her next steps pressing down upon her. She moved to her next engagement, a round-table discussion with representatives from the mining colonies on the Outer Rim, whose resources were crucial yet who felt increasingly sidelined in the galactic discourse. The conference room was a stark contrast to Lorene's tranquil office, buzzing with the heated exchanges of colony leaders who were more accustomed to the rough-and-tumble life of the frontier than the polished niceties of diplomacy. Alara stepped into the fray, her voice calm yet authoritative, mediating disputes with a firm hand and offering reassurances of the human coalition's support and protection. As she brokered peace between clashing interests, Alara's mind was never still, always returning to Zorak Thul's shadow looming over her efforts. Each alliance she strengthened, Each agreement she brokered felt like a small victory in a much larger battle, one that was increasingly playing out in the hidden corners of whispered conversations and sealed backroom deals. Leaving the conference room, Alara's path took her past the station's grand windows, where the cosmos spread out in an endless tapestry of darkness and light. The stars looked down upon her, silent witnesses to the burdens she carried. With each step back towards the bridge of the Justice, she felt the isolation of command, a solitude that not even the crowded halls of Titanus Prime could fill. Her ship awaited, a beacon of strength and order in the chaotic uncertainty of space. As she walked, her resolve hardened. No matter the machinations of her enemies, she would stand firm, for peace, for humanity, for the fragile hope that burned like a star within her. The command bridge of the Justice buzzed with a restrained intensity as Captain Alara Vance prepared for the critical holographic meeting with General Zorak Thul. The vast viewport displayed the sprawling beauty of space, stars scattered across the black canvas like sprinkled diamond dust, but Alara's focus was anchored to the mission at hand. Her crew, a tapestry of humans and allied species, manned their stations with a silent professionalism that spoke volumes of their trust in her leadership. Alara stood before the central holotable, a sleek panel of technology that soon flickered to life, projecting the imposing figure of General Thul. The general's image, towering and sharp, filled the space, his silver eyes seeming to penetrate the room. His presence, even as a hologram, seemed to draw the air tight around them. "Captain Vance," Zorak Thul's voice boomed, deep and resonating, "your endeavors to weave peace across the galaxy are commendable but futile. The galaxy respects strength, not treaties written on paper." Alara met his gaze, her posture resolute. "General Thul, peace is the strength that sustains civilizations long after battles have faded. We believe in building, not breaking." The dialogue between them crackled with an undercurrent of tension, each word laden with the weight of unspoken threats and mutual respect. This was a dance of diplomacy and power, played out against the backdrop of potential war. "Tell me, Captain, does your warship, the Justice, not contradict your peaceable intentions?" Thul challenged, his tone a mix of mockery and curiosity. "It's a deterrent, General," Alara replied smoothly. "A reminder that while we prefer peace, we are ready to defend it with all necessary force." As the conversation unfolded, Alara skillfully steered the discussion away from threats and towards cooperative possibilities. "There is much to gain from collaboration, General. Trade, technology, stability. These are the seeds of a prosperous galaxy." Thul's laughter was a low rumble. "You speak of ideals, Captain. I speak of reality. Let us see whose truth the galaxy will bear." With a subtle nod, Alara ended the transmission, the image of the general fading away like a storm cloud dispersing, leaving a lingering pressure in the air. She turned to her crew, her expression composed yet thoughtful. "Stay alert." That was not just a conversation, it was a chess move. The tension on the bridge shifted as Alara's orders set them into motion, each member focused on their part in the greater strategy. Meanwhile, Alara retreated to her private quarters to reflect further. The room was Spartan, with minimal personal effects, a stark contrast to the complexity of her thoughts. She pondered the general's words, his veiled threats woven with reluctant admiration. The galaxy was indeed a tapestry of conflicting realities, each thread colored by ambition, fear, and hope. Her own hope lay in proving that peace was not just an ideal, but a tangible strength. Later, as Titanus Prime space station came into view against the backdrop of Helion the Ford's vibrant hues, Alara felt the weight of upcoming challenges. The peace talks scheduled there would be the proving ground of her beliefs against Thul's cynicism. As the Justice docked, Alara stood by the viewport, watching the orderly chaos of ships and species converging on the station. Her resolve hardened. This was her arena, not just of battle, but of belief. In the quiet of her room, she allowed herself a moment to gaze at the stars, drawing a deep, steadying breath. "Peace is strength," she whispered to the silent expanse. "Let that be the truth we write across the stars." With the galaxy stretching out before her, Alara Vance readied herself to navigate the intricate web of diplomacy and conflict, armed with a warship and a conviction to forge peace from the fires of potential war. The station awaited. The subdued hum of the Justice served as a constant reminder of the immense machinery at work, propelling them through the cold, indifferent vastness of space. Captain Alara Vance felt the ship's pulse beneath her feet as she strode through the narrow corridors, each step echoing slightly, resonating with the silent vigilance of her crew. However, a new tension had woven itself into the fabric of their daily operations, an insidious thread of doubt that tugged at the edges of Alara's thoughts. Reports of a security breach had surfaced, subtle discrepancies in the ship's logistics records that pointed to unauthorized access to sensitive areas. The implications were severe and immediate. There was a spy among them. With the peace talks looming, the presence of a traitor on board the Justice was a catastrophic risk, one that Alara could not afford to ignore. Summoning her senior officers to the secure strategy room, Alara faced a group of trusted faces, each marked by a mix of concern and determination. The room was stark, illuminated by the harsh glow of overhead panels, casting long shadows across the angular features of her crew. "We have a breach," Alara began, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions raging inside her. "Someone here, or under our command, has compromised the security of this ship and potentially the entire peace mission." The officers exchanged glances, the weight of suspicion momentarily fracturing the unity that had defined their crew. Alara continued, outlining the discrepancies found and the potential areas of sabotage that could be targeted next. The room was thick with tension, a tangible cloud of uncertainty that settled over each officer like a heavy cloak. "Trust is the backbone of our operation," Alara addressed the silent room, her gaze piercing. "And I trust each of you. But we must find the traitor among us. We will implement tighter security protocols effective immediately, and I expect everyone to comply with the security checks, no exceptions." The meeting adjourned with a flurry of salutes and somber nods, but the real work began after. Surveillance was quietly increased, data logs were combed through with meticulous care, and Alara found herself watching her crew with a scrutinous eye, a part of her detesting the necessity of doubt. Days passed with the tension simmering just below the surface. Alara's nights were restless, her sleep haunted by the potential fallout of the betrayal. Then, the break in the case came unexpectedly. A junior officer, tasked with routine maintenance of the communication arrays, reported an anomaly, a hidden subroutine embedded in the communication protocols, a silent beacon sending data to an unknown recipient. The trail led to a young communications officer, Ensign Lorik, whose recent behavior had been unremarkable, yet whose logs placed him at the terminals, where the discrepancies originated. Under quiet arrest and intense interrogation, Lorik's facade crumbled, revealing a web of coercion and fear. A family held hostage, threats of violence. His betrayal had been forced upon him by operatives of the Kravik Empire. Alara listened to Lorik's confession with a heavy heart, the pieces of Zorik Thul's plan becoming clearer. This betrayal was not just a breach of security, it was a strategic move in the greater game of galactic chess, intended to cripple the Justice internally before the peace talks could succeed. With the spy apprehended, and the immediate threat neutralized, Alara could not help but feel a deep lingering unease. She stood before the vast viewport of her ship, gazing out at the star-strewn space that now felt more hostile than ever. The betrayal had been rooted out, but the damage to the trust within her crew, and her own sense of security, remained a wound that would not easily heal. Yet as captain, she had to lead, not just in battle but through the shadows of doubt and betrayal. Turning from the viewport, Alara prepared to address her crew, to rebuild the broken trust and reinforce their united front. The peace talks awaited, and with them a chance to prove that the ideals of peace and justice she fought for could endure, even in the face of deception and internal strife. With resolve steeling her spine, Captain Vance readied herself to navigate the turbulent waters ahead, knowing that the true test of her leadership lay not in the battles fought in space, but in the hearts and minds of her crew. The war room aboard the Justice was alive with a palpable tension, the air thick with the gravity of their impending mission. As Captain Alara Vance entered, the room snapped to attention, a sea of faces set with determination and edged with the lingering shadows of recent betrayals. Alara's presence, as always, brought a centering calm, her composed demeanor reassuring her crew of her unwavering command. The large tactical display at the center of the room glowed with the schematics of Titanus Prime space station and its surrounding defensive networks. Today, they were not just planning a battle in space but a war of wits and strategy against an unseen, insidious force that threatened the fragile peace they were sworn to uphold. "Let's begin," Alara announced, her voice cutting through the murmurs. The room fell silent, every officer fixated on their captain. The peace talks at Titanus Prime are not just a diplomatic formality. They are a target, and we must anticipate and counteract any and all threats. Lieutenant Commander Rail, head of security, stepped forward, activating a segment of the holotuple which highlighted several key areas of the station. "We have reason to believe, based on the intelligence gathered from Ensign Lorik's debriefing, that sabotage might be aimed at these critical junctures. These include the main airlock, the conference hall, and the station's core reactors." Alara nodded, her gaze tracing the blinking points on the map. "Security protocols need to be foolproof. Rail, coordinate with station security. I want double checks on all access points and continuous surveillance on these areas." Next to speak was Chief Engineer Malix, whose expertise with the ship's systems was unparalleled. "I've adjusted our sensors to detect any unauthorized communications or energy fluctuations unusual for the station. Any sabotage attempt involving the tech infrastructure should ping us immediately." The discussion shifted to the tactical deployment of their personnel. Alara's strategy was to have plainclothes officers mingled among the delegates and stationed at key points, all linked through discrete communication channels. "I want eyes on every corner," she instructed. "If a pin drops, I want to know about it." As the meeting progressed, Alara listened to each officer's report, her mind piecing together the larger picture from the mosaic of data and projections. She appreciated the depth of her crew's commitment. Their thoroughness under pressure was a testament to their resilience and professionalism. Captain Vance then turned her attention to the broader implications of their presence at the talks. "We are not just guardians of this event. We are participants. Our actions here will set the tone for human involvement in galactic affairs. We lead not only by strength, but by example." The meeting concluded with Alara reinforcing the importance of their mission. "This isn't just about protecting a location or dignitaries. This is about safeguarding the future of peace in the galaxy. Let's be vigilant, let's be thorough, and above all, let's uphold the values we are here to protect." As her crew dispersed to carry out their assignments, Alara remained behind, staring at the holographic model of Titanus Prime that slowly rotated in the dim light of the war room. Each rotation seemed to echo the turning tides of fate and the immense responsibility resting on her shoulders. Later, alone in her quarters with a view of the endless cosmos, Alara allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. The stars, ever distant and impartial, watched silently as she steadied her resolve. "For peace," she whispered into the void, her words a reaffirmation of her path, her promise, and her burden. With the battle plans laid and her ship bristling with readiness, Captain Vance knew that the coming days would test every fiber of her being and every ideal she held dear. But as always, she would meet them head-on, as a beacon of strength and justice in a universe that often seemed devoid of both. The challenges were immense, but so too was the resolve of the justice in her captain. The cosmic ballet of stars and nebulas served as the backdrop to the impending showdown, the serene beauty of the universe starkly contrasting with the palpable tension aboard the Justice. As the warship approached Titanus Prime, Captain Alara Vance surveyed her crew, their faces set with grim determination. They were warriors of peace, paradoxically braced for battle in the very place where harmony was to be brokered. In the strategic operations room, holographic screens flickered with sensor data and communication feeds. Alara, standing before the main display, coordinated the final positioning of her security teams across the station. Each member was a shadow within the greater dance of diplomats and delegates converging on the summit. "Positions confirmed, Captain," reported Lieutenant Commander Radel, his voice a steady beacon amidst the sea of information. "All teams are on standby." "Good. Keep communications tight and eyes sharp. We're not the only players on this field," Alara responded, her eyes never leaving the screen, watching as icons representing her teams moved into place. Meanwhile, in the depths of space cloaked by the shadow of a nearby moon, General Zorak Thul watched the same station with predatory focus. His ship, barely detectable against the cosmic dark, was a silent threat waiting to spring. Within its cold metal walls, Zorak prepared his forces, not just for sabotage but for a full assault should his covert plans fail. Back on Titanus Prime, the peace talks commenced. Alara, though present at the negotiation table, kept her focus split, a part of her mind always on her crew's reports. The conference room was a sphere of glass and steel, offering panoramic views of the surrounding space, a reminder of the peace that hung so delicately in balance. Suddenly, a subtle alert vibrated on Alara's wrist communicator, a thermal anomaly detected near the station's core reactor, the first sign of potential sabotage. Without hesitation, she excused herself from the talks, her departure unnoticed by the delegates engrossed in a heated debate over territorial disputes. Racing through the corridors of Titanus Prime, Alara met up with her security team, already mobilized towards the reactor. The station's labyrinthine passageways pulsed with the life of countless species, yet underneath the bustle, the tension of unseen dangers lurked. Reaching the reactor, Alara and her team found the source of the anomaly, a device rigged to destabilize the energy core, enough to cause a catastrophic meltdown. With deft precision born from years of crisis management, her engineers swiftly disarmed the device, a silent victory in the shadow of greater threats. But victory was short-lived. Alerts blared across the station and on the Justice, signaling an incoming fleet of unidentified ships. Zorak Thul had decided to escalate, launching a full assault as his sabotage failed. "Battle stations," Alara commanded over the comm, her voice the calm in the storm. As she raced back to the conference room, her ship engaged the enemy fleet, the sound of space artillery echoing through the comms. The battle outside was a dazzling display of destructive choreography, ships weaving and dodging between volleys of energy fire. The Justice stood resilient, its cannons responding with disciplined fury under Alara's command, broadcasted from her tactical tablet. Amidst the chaos, Alara reached the conference room, her entrance turning heads as delegates stared in alarm at the screens displaying the battle raging outside. "This attack is meant to fracture our unity," Alara addressed the room, standing firm despite the turmoil. "We must not falter. We stand stronger together." As the battle reached its climax, the Justice managed to outmaneuver and disable the main Kravik ship. With Zorak Thul's fleet retreating, the immediate threat waned, leaving behind a trail of debris and a renewed sense of the cost of peace. The peace talks resumed, this time with a renewed vigor and a collective understanding of the stakes involved. Alara's leadership had not only thwarted a physical attack, but had fortified the resolve of all present to pursue peace over conflict. As the Justice stood watchful in the aftermath, Captain Vance allowed herself a moment to reflect on the day's trials. They had faced the ultimate test, and emerged not unscathed but undeterred, their mission clear and their resolve unbroken. As the last of the debris from the battle drifted away into the void, the tranquility of space enveloped Titanus Prime once again. Inside the conference room, the echoes of recent conflicts mingled with the voices of renewed commitment and collaboration. Captain Alara Vance stood by the expansive window, watching the celestial dance of planets and stars, her heart heavy with the cost yet hopeful for the future. The peace talks, now back on course, moved forward with a vigor fueled by the shared experience of the attack. Delegates from across the galaxy, once divided by deep-seated mistrust and ancient grievances, found common ground in their collective survival and the undeniable bravery displayed by Alara and her crew. The room buzzed with discussions of alliances, trade agreements, and mutual defense pacts, the air charged with a sense of purpose. Alara, however, remained somewhat detached, her thoughts adrift. The victory was clear, but the scars were fresh, not just on the hull of the Justice, but in the hearts of her crew and the minds of all who had witnessed the brink of devastation. She knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but the unity forged in the crucible of conflict had laid a strong foundation. Turning from the window, Alara rejoined the talks, her presence commanding yet gentle. As she took her seat, a murmur of respect swept through the room, many eyes reflecting gratitude, others reflecting a newfound respect for the human delegation. The path to peace is often as tumultuous as it is rewarding. Alara began, addressing the assembly. Today we stood together, not just as representatives of our respective worlds, but as denizens of the galaxy, united against a common threat. Her words resonated, weaving through the diverse tapestry of alien cultures and languages, finding a common thread in each. The talks culminated in the signing of the Titanus Accord, a comprehensive treaty that addressed not only the immediate concerns, but also laid down laws for an interstellar council designed to prevent future conflicts. As the delegates signed the accord, flashbulbs flickered, capturing a moment destined to be a historical beacon of unity and peace. Alara felt a subtle shift, an almost imperceptible easing of the tension that had gripped her since the journey began. With the formalities concluded, Alara excused herself from the celebrations that followed. She needed space, a moment to herself away from the pomp and ceremony. She found solitude on a small observation deck, the vastness of space stretching out before her. Standing alone, Alara allowed herself to reflect on the events that had unfolded. Each decision she had made, each life put at risk, and each sacrifice bore down on her with a profound weight. Yet, amidst the cacophony of her thoughts, a gentle sense of pride swelled within her, the pride of having navigated through impossible odds, of having kept her crew safe, and of having played a pivotal role in steering the galaxy back from the precipice of war. The stars seemed to watch over her, ancient and unyielding. She spoke into the void, her voice soft but resolute. For those we've lost, for those we've saved, and for the future we've secured. Returning to the festivities, Alara was greeted by her crew, their faces reflecting a spectrum of relief and admiration. Together, they had weathered a storm of cosmic proportions, and together, they would navigate the uncertain waters of this new era. As the Justice prepared to depart from Titanus Prime, Alara took one last look at the station, now a symbol of galactic unity. Her ship, a beacon of human resilience, and a testament to her leadership, set course towards the horizon of new beginnings.